Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the sources to bring you, well, the most compelling stories hidden within them.
That's right.
Today, we want you to step back in time with us. Picture a small community, everyday life, but overshadowed by this huge global conflict, World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission, really, is to take these scattered pieces, these fragments from local newspapers, and weave together the story of one person. A powerful, really personal story.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can find in those local papers.
Exactly. So this deep dive focuses on the life and ultimately the sacrifice of George A. Weeks. He was a young man from Nemaha County, Kansas.
And our sources for this journey are newspaper clippings. We've got pieces from the Courier-Tribune, the Marshall County News, and Sabetha Herald.
Right, spanning quite a period from 1944 up to 1948.
Yeah, and these aren't, grand history narratives. They're local reports,
Yeah.
the community pulse.
Telling a truly local story that, well, often holds these bigger truths, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's so compelling is how these seemingly simple reports, maybe just a few lines here and there, become the foundation for a really profound narrative.
So our goal is to pull out those vital details.
Connect the dots, cross the different papers, the different dates, and really try to understand the journey and the impact of this one young man's life.
And it shows how even just local reports can paint a vivid picture, sometimes maybe a bit contradictory, but still vivid.
Absolutely. It gives us a shortcut almost to understanding the human scale of these huge events. We'll explore the story of a soldier, his family, his community, all touched by war.
And what these little pieces tell us about, well, the bigger human experience, sacrifice, memory.
Exactly. Remembrance.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start right at the beginning with George's roots.
Okay.
He was born August 8th, 1922, Baileyville, Kansas. Went to Carroll School, then Seneca High School. So his early life was right there, grounded in that community.
And before the Army, his life was, it was farming, helping his parents on their farm near Axtell.
Which really grounds him, doesn't it? It's not just a job description. It's a connection to the land, to family.
Totally. And the local papers, they described him as a friendly lad.
Right, and held in high esteem by all who knew him. When you read those phrases, what kind of picture does that paint? Why is that important context?
Oh, it's crucial because it immediately tells you he wasn't just a number, not just another soldier. He was a son, a neighbor, someone known, liked, valued in his community. So when he entered the Army in May 1944, went off to training at Camp Hood in Texas, he wasn't just some anonymous recruit. He was carrying Nemaha County with him, in a way. Their hopes, their connections.
That makes sense. That esteem, that local connection, it deepens the tragedy later on for everyone who knew him.
Without a doubt.
And those connections were really strong.
Wow.
The Courier-Tribune in October 44, it doesn't just mention George.
No, it lists him specifically as one of several Nemaha County boys.
Right. In the 155th Battalion, 92nd Regiment, you see names like Albert Hassenkamp, Vernon Keegan,
Wilfred Reist, Adrian Schmitz, Bernard Schultesians, all listed together.
They were training together, going through this massive life change as a group, almost like a little piece of home went with them.
Yeah, and that tells you so much about wartime service in small towns back then. Whole groups of friends, neighbors, they'd often go together.
Sharing that experience.
Sharing it all. From training camp onwards, it created these really strong bonds. But even within that group, paths could diverge quickly.
How so?
Well, the same article mentions Robert Penland and John Cornell, also Nemaha boys.
Okay.
But they transferred out, went to paratroop companies, off to Fort Benning, Georgia. And the article notes they didn't even get a furlough before heading out.
Wow. So same starting point, same town, but very different immediate paths.
Exactly. It just underscores that individual journeys varied a lot. Some got that brief trip home, that chance for a goodbye. Others didn't.
That's a really stark contrast. For George, though, and some of those friends listed with her, they did get that chance. The sources say he got a short furlough, late September 1944.
Yeah.
And when you look at that date, knowing what came just weeks later, gosh, you can only imagine the weight of that visit, that goodbye.
It's incredibly poignant, isn't it? Those brief final furloughs. They tell us so much about the human cost.
Yeah.
For the soldiers, for the families left behind.
Caught between two worlds, almost.
Exactly, that liminal space. You're caught between the familiar, the farm, the family, and this looming unknown future overseas.
Yeah.
That goodbye wasn't just, it wasn't just see you later.
No.
It was facing that potential finality, a moment etched in memory in a way routine departures never are.
So for George and his family, that short visit, late September, That was it. Their last moments together.
That was it. The records show he left home October 2nd, 1944, headed to Fort Meade, Maryland, and then overseas.
It's really hard to fathom the emotions around that. Waving goodbye, knowing, or maybe trying not to know. It could be the last time.
Yeah.
And the papers specifically say he'd been overseas only a few weeks before his death.
Which just makes that September furlough, that last goodbye, even more monumental for his parents, his sisters. It wasn't just a break, it became the memory.
The final comfort before the unimaginable happens.
And then it did happen. The heartbreaking news arrived.
That phrase from the paper, it just hits you.
It does. Mr. and Mrs. Jory Weeks, living northeast of Axel then, they got that telegram from the War Department. The Courier-Tribune reported it on December 14th, 1944.
And in a small community like that, heartbreaking news wasn't just private sorrow, was it?
No, it was shared. A collective grief. A reminder that the war, even far away, could reach right into their homes.
What's really striking, though, is reading these reports now, you see discrepancies even in the initial official news.
Right. That's fascinating and also tragic for the families.
The Courier-Tribune first said George was killed in action November 9th, somewhere in France. But then, just a week later, December 21st, the Marshall County News reports his death as November 29th.
Yeah. And that's not just a typo, is it?
Doesn't feel like it.
No. It's a real window into the chaos of information during wartime, what people call the fog of war.
So families could be left wondering.
For a long time. Imagine getting conflicting dates, conflicting details, maybe even conflicting locations initially, trying to piece together your son's last moments. That was part of their grief journey.
Information traveled slowly, imperfectly.
Exactly. Multiple channels, initial errors, incomplete data. It all happened. So for us, looking back, we have to cross-reference, look for later confirmations.
And in George's case?
Well, later reports also mention November 8th sometimes. But the most definitive information seems to come much later, actually.
Okay.
The Courier-Tribune on September 30th, 1948. This is when his body is being returned. It solidifies the location and date. Laney, France, on November 29th, 1944.
So nearly 4 years later, they get that definitive date and place tied to the repatriation.
It seems so. That later report, often linked to the final accounting when remains were returned, usually provides the clearest picture we can get. It really highlights the challenge families face getting precise details.
So, November 29th, 1944, Laney, France, George A. Weeks, just 22 years old. He'd only turned 22 that August.
Such a young age.
He was the only son of Mr. and Mrs. Joey Weeks. And the reports list his family, painting this picture of a network deeply rooted there.
Yes, survived by 4 sisters. Mildred, who was Mrs. Lloyd Sudgett in Beatty. Ruby, Mrs. Harry Elsbach over in Sabetha. Clara, Mrs. Glenn Biddle, who was further away in Santa Ana, California. And Gladys, Mrs. L.E. Fairfield, living northeast of Axtell, near her parents at the time.
That list, it really underscores the ripple effect, doesn't it? The whole extended family sharing this immense sorrow.
It absolutely does. Losing an only son is a unique kind of grief for parents, but it touches everyone. Sisters, brothers-in-law, nieces and nephews he'd never meet. That network meant the grief was shared, yes, but the hole he left was huge. In these tight-knit places, everyone knew the Weeks family. Everyone knew George. Their sorrow was the community's sorrow.
A collective wound.
Definitely. One that would take years to even start healing.
Which brings us forward in time. Fast forward nearly 4 years after his death to August 1948.
Right. The war's over, the world's trying to rebuild. But for the Weeks family, closure is still incomplete.
Because this is when George's body was finally returned from Europe.
Yeah, and the details of this process, even reported in the local paper, highlight something profound.
The dedication to bringing soldiers home.
Exactly, that dedication. Even years later, the U.S. Army Transport Lawrence Victory was scheduled to arrive in New York around August 19th.
Okay.
From there, his body would go through the American Graves Registration Distribution Center in Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
And then escorted to Sabetha. The paper notes Sabetha was the final destination requested by next of kin.
That methodical, almost bureaucratic process.
Yeah.
Years later. It still speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It really does. About the nation's commitment, yes, but also about providing families with that final, tangible act of remembrance. A physical return. Something time couldn't diminish the importance of.
And by this point, the family's circumstances had also shifted.
Mr. and Mrs. Weeks weren't in Axtell anymore. They'd moved about 3 years earlier, around 1945.
Okay, where to?
They were living at 225 North 14th Street in Sabetha. The article mentions they moved to be near their daughter, Ruby, Mrs. Harry Elsbach.
Seeking that family support.
It seems likely. And the Popkis funeral home in Sabetha was handling the arrangements for George's final return.
What does that move tell us, you think, about the long-term impact?
Well, it underscores that grief isn't static. It reshapes lives, families. Maybe they needed the support of being closer to Ruby. Maybe staying on the farm near Axtell was just too painful, too full of memories.
Right, every corner a reminder.
Possibly. The passage of time might dull the sharpest edge, but it doesn't erase the need for remembrance, for a proper farewell. Their move was part of finding a new path forward, navigating life after such a loss.
And that farewell, that public acknowledgement finally came.
Yes.
The story concludes, in these records at least, with the memorial services, held on Monday afternoon, September 27, 1948, 2 o'clock in Sabetha.
And the Courier-Tribune reported it again, confirming the details we now know. George Weeks, who gave his life for his country in World War II at Ligny, France, on November 29, 1944. By this time, his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Weeks, and their daughter Gladys, were living on North 4th Street in Sabetha. So the family was there in the community for this final important event.
That service, almost 4 years after his death. It wasn't just for George, was it? It felt like something bigger?
I think so. It was a crucial moment for the whole community. To gather, to mourn collectively, to honor one of their own. It brought a kind of public closure to the private grief they'd all carried.
A shared acknowledgement.
A shared acknowledgement of the cost, and a final, solemn farewell. What do you think that delayed ceremony meant for the community's healing?
I imagine it was incredibly profound, like you said, maybe a second wave of grief in some ways, but also maybe solace. Acknowledging the sacrifice not just of George, but maybe symbolic of all their sons who served, who were lost.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So when we pull back, this whole deep dive into George A. Weeks' life, pieced together from these local news clippings, what does it all mean for us, looking back now?
Well, first, it means that really powerful personal stories can be built from the humblest sources. You don't always need the big history books.
Right.
His story shows the individual human cost of these massive global conflicts in a way numbers just can't.
A life lived, a family changed forever.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
community impacted. And it lays bare that slow, often painful process of grief, remembrance, healing, unfolding over years.
Not just days or weeks.
No. It's a testament to resilience, too, both the families and the communities.
And connecting this to you, the listener, understanding these individual stories like George's, helps us connect with history on a really personal level, doesn't it?
Visceral, even.
Yeah. It reminds you that behind every statistic, every date, there were real lives, real people loved and mourned.
And it highlights that dedication we talked about, bringing soldiers home no matter how long it takes.
Yeah.
Providing some measure of peace.
It really underscores those universal things, love, loss, memory, that connect us all across time.
And George's journey, Kansas farm, French battlefield, back home years later, it's a powerful lens, not just for his life, but for countless others like him.
Absolutely. Which leads to maybe a final thought. As you reflect on George A. Weeks' story, this journey we've pieced together, consider this. How many other stories like this? Stories of sacrifice, courage, family longing. How many are still out there, maybe tucked away in local archives, old newspapers, shoeboxes full of photos, just waiting?
Waiting to be rediscovered.
Yeah. And what responsibility do we have, maybe? To seek them out, to remember these personal histories, weave them back into our shared understanding.
And what deeper understanding might we gain about ourselves, about our past, by doing that?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.